Satirical Life is
7 a.m. and it's now time for the Morning Watch with Reverend Dr. Delano Toussaint. The Morning Watch is brought to you by Holt's Hardware and Supplies, the leader in electrical building and everything for the home, and also the Ministry of Economic and Job Creation, achieving prosperity through partnership, economic growth, and sustainable development.
Holt's Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holt's Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Banishtown, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holt's Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Jamaica. Let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you are going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends. Arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time upon the road. Arrive alive.
A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Delano Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, examining the 20 years before parole proposal for minors who murder. Tongue twister there. And in the second watch, Jamaica, the land of wood and water woes. For our social media question, we ask, what do you think is the solution to Jamaica's water woes? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's our quote.
Good morning, good morning. Today's I quote is an Ireland quote, and it says, no mug, no brook, no coffee, no dash way. Explanation, do not blow simple matters out of proportion.
Good morning, Joker.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How is that coffee spelled?
C-A-W-F-E-E, coffee.
Do you drink coffee or coffee?
No, coffee is fine. Coffee is not there. No, but I have coffee, not coffee. Not sure
what's the difference between the two, Joker?
I feel like coffee is strong and black. For some reason, it's just strong.
And coffee is a little more refined.
I feel so. Good morning.
Okay. All right, great. The first watch will be back after this break.
The #1 digital sales and marketing conference will be live in Jamaica at SalesCon 360 Conference and Tech Expo. Learn more about the future of sales and digital marketing. Explore the tech playground featuring the latest technologies and network with top experts at the AI costume party. Join us at the Jamaica Pegasus June 14, featuring top speakers and marketing experts from around the world. The future of marketing is here. Register now at salescom360.com or call 438-1135. Sponsored by iPrint Digital, Creative Brands and Concepts, Trend Media, and Love 101.
Jamaica. Let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you're going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends, arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time on the road. Arrive alive.
A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on JMBA to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jmbank.com to get pre-approved today. JM Bank will help you find a way. Packed with inspirational skills and talent-driven music. 145, we bring you the growing testimony songs. Listeners take a passion. Stick around the program, set to a part, and we run in the fireballs of heaven. Everything is on the line, so we share with you another testimony. Don't stick out the power of God. Special thanks to Delano and the incredible House of Refuge, Healing and Deliverance Ministries International. With a whole other way of a wonderful program, May 13 with me, Sarah, and the Chirpy Line of the Family Station, Over 101. Representing you the music, family, and love. Love 101, the family station, invites you to Take Time Drive. You can hear reminders and tips on why you should take time drive. Take Time Drive, a bulletin of the road safety tips to help you keep safe and your head sound while driving. You only have one life. Drive it well. Take Time Drive on the family station, Love 101.
Oh, this is how we do it.
Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Love 101, you're invited to listen to Good Morning Minister, a weekly feature where government ministers will speak about the developments in their various ministries. Listen for the updates and have your questions and concerns ready to share inside Good Morning Minister as the Minister of Information, Robert Nesta Morgan, and a guest minister or agency head discuss the issues and take your questions and suggestions. Get ready to call in during Good Morning Minister, 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, right here on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Delano Toussaint. Now, there is a proposal to make an amendment to the Child Care and Protection Act in a bill recently tabled in Parliament. The amendment would ensure that a minor found guilty of murder serves a sentence of not less than 20 years before becoming eligible for parole. 20 years. Now, to discuss the conditions and implications of this proposal, we have online Ms. Jade Williams, Policy and Advocacy Specialist from the Jamaicans for Justice. Good morning to you, Ms. Williams.
Good morning, Mr. Toussaint.
Great. Good to have you with us. Thanks for being with us so early in the morning. Now, Ms. Williams, what is your understanding of the aforementioned proposal, and what are your opening thoughts on the matter?
Well, I have a similar understanding to you that the proposal is a 20-year mandatory sentence, so yes, to be applied to a child, starting at the age of 14, since this is for the offense of murder, and it is to be applied regardless of circumstances. So my initial thoughts when I heard it was...
Before we go there, I'm sorry, Mr. Before we go there, you said 14? So the child there starts at 14 and not child in the broader sense?
Right. So the age of criminal responsibility starts at 12, but in order to be charged with murder, the criminal responsibility age is at 14.
Okay.
Yes. So, so my initial thoughts, I can't imagine that a child at the age of 14, which is where this would start its application, could be so beyond rehabilitation that we should give them a mandatory 20-year sentence. I had recently actually seen some coverage of ex-convicts in the media talking about their experience having even gone through the rehabilitation system that's available to adult convicts, re-entering society and being unable to truly do so just on the basis that they were previously convicted. Yeah. So I can't imagine how many persons we would be taking out of our population by putting in such a proposal. Furthermore, we are looking at a national situation where we know that our crime is driven by gangs, and gangs have extensive influence over communities, including the youngsters in those communities. We're looking at high prison overcrowding, including in our juvenile correctional centers. So in addition to the rehabilitation aspect and losing that opportunity where we lock up the children for so long, where would we keep them? And in what conditions would we be able to keep them? Because even now our capacity is so low, overcrowded, and rife with issues that have been reported extensively, not only through us at JFK, but also from Indicom, for example. So those are some of our initial concerns when we saw the proposal. We would, of course, be making a submission to the Joint Select Committee in relation to the proposal and hopefully be able to challenge some of these issues.
You mentioned earlier, Ms. Williams, about the UK. When in our region, do you know how this law, if it were to become law, would square when compared with those countries in the region?
Well, for example, in the region, I can't speak to that in particular. I do know in the Commonwealth, we would be taking what's the word I should use? A slightly stronger approach. As, for example, in the UK, there is a tiered system as it relates to this. So not saying that mandatory minimum sentences aren't used in relation to murder, but in the UK, for example, they would say if you are the age of, for example, 14 to 16, then you would receive a lesser mandatory sentence with the goal of ensuring that the opportunity for rehabilitation is still there. So they have that tiered system there, but then there are other jurisdictions that are much more liberal than ours. For example, in Canada and in Australia, mandatory sentences don't apply to minors in any circumstances. So we have different approaches that we can take, but I am concerned about what was the proposed approach, which is just a mandatory 20-year sentence.
And of course, I'm sure you are aware of what took place in Guyana recently with that massive fire.
Yes.
Which killed 19. And I gather that the accused, who is a girl, is being charged as an adult for murder. What's your take on that?
Well, I am not familiar with the Guyanese legal system to know if that is their procedure what their procedure would allow for. Here we don't charge persons as adults, but what we do is that there are provisions in the Child Crime Protection Act that would say this person, instead of being tried in the children's court, has to be tried in the regular Supreme Court or in the regular parish court, which for certain offenses, like serious offenses like murder. So it's, I can't speak to their decision to charge the person as an adult.
You think it's excessive? Think it's excessive though?
I have no idea. Because also when we talk about excessive, we have to think about it on a case-by-case basis as well.
All right, tell you what, Ms. Williams, see us we're up on a break. Hold those thoughts.
Correct, sure.
Play your part in helping us become rock solid and ready. For more information on the National Natural Disaster Risk Financing Policy, visit mof.gov.jm. The time by the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service is
7:15.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You can more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Holt's Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holt's Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holt's Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Delano Toussaint. And in this, the first watch, we are examining as best we can the 20 years before parole proposal for minors who murder. And that has been proposed, and there's a bill tabled in that regard. And as we discuss this, we have online Ms. Jade Williams, Policy and Advocacy Specialist of the Jamaicans for Justice. Welcome again to you, Ms. Williams.
Yes,
Thanks for staying with us. I think I interrupted your train of thought before the break. Do you like to recap? Yes.
Sure. So we were just discussing the issue of excessive sentences. And I was saying that, we have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Including as it relates to challenging mandatory minimums, which is something that we have seen in other jurisdictions in other courts as well. So to say that it is excessive, I can't, unless I know the actual details of the case, the actual reason that she set the fire, all of those issues. But I can say that it is an issue that's taken on a case-by-case basis, and we even had a recent case in Jamaica that was challenged at the Privy Council. The challenge was partially thinking that the sentence was manifestly excessive, which the Privy Council found it was not manifestly excessive, as there was only a 2-year difference between the sentence that would apply and the sentence that was the mandatory sentence. So they said that bit of difference was not enough to consider it manifestly excessive. However, they also said that in another case, that same 2-year difference could be considered manifestly excessive. So it really falls on the facts of the case.
Yeah, interesting. Now, Ms. Williams, you had mentioned earlier that the JFJ will be making submissions to the Joint Select Committee in this particular regard, the proposal. Can you walk us through that process and how can other members of the public be a part of this discussion, dialogue, and discourse?
Okay, so, I know that we had been sent an actual letter from the clerk of the Houses of Parliament to ask for a written submission from us if we were interested in making one. So that is the process that NGOs normally go through. But I know that as a citizen, if you are interested in making your opinion known on a specific bill that has been tabled in the House of Parliament, you can just call them and ask to speak to the clerk, or you can send an email to the clerk's email, which is on Parliament's website. You can include your proposal there, or you can ask for the opportunity to make a formal submission. And I'm sure the opportunity will be extended to you as you do, right? So you can go ahead and go through that route. But right now we are preparing for the written submission. So we have not heard yet when oral submissions will be taken.
So what really will the submission be about, if you can tell us, from JFJ? Is it that you'd like the years to be reduced in that regard, or that it be erased from the bill in total? Well, the nature of the proposal?
We're coming from several angles.
Several angles?
Yes, we are. But I can say, well, we have been speaking quite extensively, I think, especially since the Firearms Act came into force last year, about the effect of mandatory minimum sentencing as we have begun to employ it. And so we've considered that this is an approach that our government is unlikely to deviate from in terms of using mandatory sentencing. So we have spent some time looking at some alternative applications of mandatory sentencing to see how best they can reduce the negative effects that we would have observed in our research. So we looked at adding what we call a presumptive approach, which would allow for judges to still be able to have some discretion in the sentencing process, particularly when it comes to vulnerable groups like children or persons with disabilities or mental health issues, to consider the unique circumstances of the case. Because the real challenge that we're having is not necessarily the amount of years. It is that, well, but that is a factor as well. It is that the judge is unable to alter that number of years regardless of any circumstances, right? And as we know, plenty of evidence comes to light in court that can and should affect the final sentence, can affect the person's options for rehabilitation. And so I think it is something that, while we're not completely afraid with the use of mandatory minimum sentencing generally, we are willing to go with an approach that allows for greater judicial discretion, which we think is lacking from the current approach.
So that's why we make sure you're not proposing that they take the 20 years proposal totally out of the bill.
Okay, well, as it relates to children, our position is that 20 years is an excessive mandatory approach. We would want that to not be the starting point, if there is to be a starting point. 20 years is too high.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what's your response, therefore, as a representative of JFJ, to those who argue that regardless of the age of the murderer, murder is murder? And especially bear in mind that some of these children, minors, are cold-blooded murderers as well, ruthless individuals, which is not unique to gender or age. What's your response to that?
My response is that if we are ascribing adult responsibilities to minors, then we have lost the plot. I have to...
Murder is murder, Miss Williams. The person is dead, has been killed.
Absolutely. I think that when we look at cases that involve children as perpetrators, and that is not to say that there aren't children that are perpetrators that have no chance at rehabilitation, right? I'm not saying that those children don't exist, but I'm saying that when we look at children as perpetrators, we have to look at why this crime took place. Because a child is not born with criminal intent, so that must be something that the child has developed. And if this is something that we can say, for example, in the case that was challenged at the Privy Council, the young man who was charged with a firearm offense had been groomed by his uncle in joining gang activity. So if you are a child that is surrounded by criminality and then influenced by that criminality, how much responsibility can we ascribe to you so that to say you are beyond rehabilitation? So at the end of
20 years saying you're beyond, the person's beyond rehabilitation? 20 years is not saying that?
I mean, we also have to look at our actual system that is in place. We know, and even our Minister of National Security has admitted, that our prison system is a school for further criminality. When you put a 14-year-old child into a prison system for murder, so they would possibly be in an adult facility, or even in the juvenile facility where they are being taught by those who have been inmates for much longer than them and have much greater criminal knowledge. They spend their 20 years. By the time they come out, the only life that they would have known at 34 years old is that of a criminal. What are they to do now that we are trying to re-enter them into society? I don't think that this approach allows for that. And how many of our citizens will we lose if this is the approach that we take?
Yeah. I think the counter-argument that some people would give is that based on what you have said, and you know, rightly so, the process of rehabilitation is what needs to be improved. You know, that when they are actually in prison, we ensure that the systems there, the personnel involved, are all on the same page. And we ensure as best as possible that when they do leave, they leave as better persons than they went into the prison cell. What say you on that?
I agree that that has to be one of our major focuses, but that requires a lot, because if we're going to say
start somewhere, so they're saying let's start with this mandatory thing and let's work on that rehabilitation process.
Unfortunately, this mandatory thing will cripple your rehabilitation efforts. In my opinion, in our current environment, where we do not have those safeguards in place, where we have bad actors in the system, where we have already acknowledged that our prison system is a school for criminality, we cannot come with the approach that we can simultaneously put persons into the system and also rehabilitate the system. The system, I haven't heard any plans for the rehabilitation of the system, have you?
You tell me.
I just did. So I'm saying, if it is that maybe if we had heard the proposal with such things attached, and like I said, I haven't heard it. If it has been said, I accept, but I have not heard that. So which is why we have some of these challenges.
So if it were attached, it would be okay for JFJ.
If it were attached, we would revise our opinion. Whether or not it would be okay would depend on what the actual proposal is.
Yes. It's a work in progress. You see, Casey, as you know, Ms. Williams, you work you work with people and you know the challenges. There are many persons who would argue by he who feels it knows it. You know, that if your family member is murdered, regardless of the age of the murderer, the fact is my murder has taken place. That loved one is no longer there. And they're saying there are some real ruthless children out there, them wicked, them bad, them vile.
Well, like I said, I'm not saying that those children don't exist, but we cannot use our law to catch the niche, most wicked. We have to use our law to address what is our actual environment, where we know that our children are unduly influenced by adult criminal actors. And this is not of their own volition that they're doing these things. So how can we address those root causes before we go all the way to punishment? Because punishment is only addressing the issue after it already happened. So how can we address it before it happens so that we don't have to be considering mandatory sentencing?
Yes, and we give the judges the discretion, the leeway to be able to judge the cases and make decisions based on their own merit. That's what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Very informative, Miss Williams. We appreciate your time and thoughts. Have a productive day.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Toussaint. Thank you for having me.
Great. Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
JMBA Small Business Loans. Tell us your business and let's turn your ambitions into reality. The time by JMBA Small Business Loans is
7:30.
Jamaica, let us arrive alive. We know everyone has somewhere to be or someone to see. Whether you're going on a trip, headed to a party, running errands, getting gifts, or visiting family and friends. Arrive alive. Slow down. There's no rush. Look out for yourself and others. Don't let your life be a statistic. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So take time on the road. Arrive alive.
a message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Advocacy does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
Holt's Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holt's Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holt's Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Inspirational skills and talent-driven music. 145, radio the new interesting and design. Listeners take a passion. Style is now past 7 o'clock. And we run down the fires of heaven. Everything is on the line, so we share it here and one of history. Roasting out the power of marketing. With special thanks to Noah of the Incredible House of Refuge, Healing and Deliverance Ministries International. With a whole lot of wonderful program, the searching of me, Sarah, and the Turbo Line of the family station, and over 101. Dedicated to the music, family, and
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Delano Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, Jamaica, Georgia Aquarium signed MOU on blue economy opportunities. Also in the Gleaner, pre-last-night talks to be held this week, says Floyd Green. In the Observer, no honor for the king. KD Knight opts to avoid opening sessions of court. And also, in the Observer, Haiti among 18 countries named by UN of rising hunger risk. And we also see in Loop News, rest in peace, Pauline, Jamaican street dog living in Canada, has died. And also, cop reportedly shot dead by wife in Manchester. Well, those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our social media question. What do you think is the solution to Jamaica's water woes? What do you think is the solution to Jamaica's water woes? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-31 We'll be right back.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Love 101, you're invited to listen to Good Morning Minister, a weekly feature where government ministers will speak about the developments in their various ministries. Listen for the updates and have your questions and concerns ready to share inside Good Morning Minister as the Minister of Information, Robert Nesta Morgan, and a guest minister or agency head discuss the issues and take your questions and suggestions. Get ready to call in during Good Morning Minister, 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, right here on Love 101, the family station.
Love 101, the family station, invites you to Take Time Drive. You can hear reminders and tips on why you should take time drive. Take Time Drive, a version of the road safety tips to help you keep safe and your head sound while driving. You only have one life. Drive it well. Take Time Drive on the family station, Love 101.
Oh, this is how we do it.
Some say there are as many as 100 names for God. How many do you know? Do you know their meanings and power? Join host Bishop Harry Steve Blair and guests Pastor Courtney Morrison and Apostle Anil Richards on Tuesday, May 30 at 10 a.m. as they talk about the many names of God. Right here on the family station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Inspirational skills and talent-driven music. 145, we'll bring you the new interesting designs. What's next for passion? Style the worldwide set to apart, and we will learn the fires of heaven. Everything is on the line, so we share here and never testimony. So stick out the power of God. All God will have to watch upright too, with Bishop Hexamilla and the incredible house of refuge, healing out of the Grace Ministries International. With a whole lot of wonderful program, they start to me say on the Tribune and the family station. All the 101, celebrating the music, family, and
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Delano Toussaint. Let's now join Jukal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: what do you think is the solution to Jamaica's water woes? Jukal.
All right, so we have a response from Edna. Edna's in Montego Bay. Let's hear what she's saying.
Good morning, Morning Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. I think the solution for the water woe that we are having now is to build another dam. so many times when rain falls, so much water go to waste when that could be in a catchment. So I think that's one of the solutions. That's my idea. Don't know if it makes sense.
All right, thank you so much, Edna, for that response. And that is the only one that we have here for right now on WhatsApp.
Okay, ever faithful Edna.
That's
all
right.
right. Great. Now, as we segue into the second watch, if you are now watering your garden, lawn, ground, or farm, if you're now refilling your pond or swimming pool, or if you're now washing your vehicle with a hose, well, these are now punishable offenses under the law. And many persons are undoubtedly asking, why? Why are we at this juncture again? And what more needs to be done to break this cycle? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have joining us Mr. Delano Williams from the National Water Commission. He's the acting corporate public relations manager there. And Mr. Humphrey Taylor, past president of the Jamaica Master Builders Association, is also a registered civil engineer. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good morning to you, Sir Toussaint. Thank you for having me. Good morning to Mr. Taylor as well.
Great. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning to your listener. Good morning to Mr. Williams. Thanks for having me.
Great. Welcome to you both. Now, let me start with you, Mr. Williams. What is the current state of the nation's water dams or reservoirs? Can you remind us again of the latest restrictions and the penalties really that go with them?
All right. Thank you. So currently we have a number of systems across the island. Of the total NWC sources, etc., we have approximately 83 which remain drought affected. The largest two are the Constant Spring system, which is supplied by we know it as the Hermitage Dam. It contains, when it's full, 399 million gallons. It's now down to 38% of that, just about 150 million. And if you were to be extracting the daily drawdown from it without any inflows, we would have just about 30 days supply. Correspondingly, the Mona system, which is on the eastern side of Kingston City.
Hold on, Mr. Williams. Did you say we'll have 30 days supply?
If you were drawing down without any further inflows to the Mona, just about that. If you had no more inflows going in, which is why we are concerned, because we see on some days limited inflows, sometimes 3 million. On average, we require about 6 million to supply persons from the Constant Spring network. So if it dwindles anymore, what we have in storage would just be about 30 days. So that is the perspective why we have had to extend. Well, let me just quickly give you the Mona figures, and then we can explain why we've extended the restrictions to now a prohibition. So the Mona is at 32%. Normally, it is at its fullest, it is 808 million gallons. At 32%, it's just about 260 million gallons.
All right.
Again, that's bordering. 260 million, yes.
Yes, stick up in right there, because I want to bring in Mr. Taylor before we go to the break in a short while. Mr. Taylor, based on what you have heard so far and what you know in this regard, what are your opening thoughts?
My opening thoughts are we should have built a dam long ago, and I don't mean a little dam. We should have built a big dam where we could have a huge reservoir which would do off those two that Mr. Williams talked about. And that reservoir could be used for both power, recreational purposes, irrigation purposes, and things like that. Now, right now, that type of infrastructure is very expensive. So I suppose what we would have to do in the short term is to make water harvesting right across the population something that we should get used to for everyday living.
Mm-hmm. And you said we should, well, we're up on a break. We're at the break point. So hold that thought. We'll be right back.
Praise sardine for the chef and the beginner. Follow the pan with pepper, that are the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody
Praise sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is just about 7:46 a.m.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the Morning Watch because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn edify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
The Morning Watch, thought-provoking, insightful, current. Listen for the probing questions with Attorney at Law Stokely Marshall and the in-depth discussion with Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint. On Thursdays, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Educom Cooperative Credit Union, providing value through service, and Bashco, the store that gives you more. The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The Morning Watch is on the family station Love 101.
They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You can more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
Holt's Hardware and Supplies for electrical, plumbing, and building items at low prices. Everything you need for the home. Rugs, decorative curtain rods, sheet set, picture frames, indoor and outdoor lights, and more. That's Holt's Hardware, St. John's Road between Ebony and Royal Place, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Telephone 876-648-7166 or 876-648-7017. Holt's Hardware, the leader in electrical and building supplies.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And in this, the second watch, we are looking on the water woes which are affecting our country at this time. And in so doing, we have online Mr. Delano Williams, NWC Acting Corporate Public Relations Manager, and Mr. Humphrey Taylor, past president of Jamaica Master Builders Association, and he's a registered civil engineer. Before the break, Mr. Taylor, you were giving us your opening thoughts. You mentioned about a dam instead of dams that you wish had been built.
Yes, and that I was thinking of. You know, it should be. I'm not sure the strata at the Raya Cobra is suitable for a dam, but what I'm thinking about is a mega dam. Like if you put a good dam somewhere like Bag Walk and flood the place back, but right now that should have been done years ago because right now we'd have a lot of population to move, but it can be done. China built one the other day and moved 5 million people. But that type of dam, as I said, would be huge, and it would have a huge acreage of water that you'd have behind the dam, and that dam had many purposes: recreation, fishing, irrigation, the power generation, and water. So that's the type of thing. It's a very expensive infrastructure, but long ago, if we had done it, it would have been serving us now.
Mr. Williams, the obvious question is why? Why not? Why do we still not have such a dam or dams?
Well, obviously, I think what Mr. Taylor has mentioned, he's onto something. The recent announcements by Prime Minister and also our Oversight Minister, Matthew Samuda, indicated that a dam is still in the works, so much so that not on the Rehoboth side, but on the Yala side, the Mahogany Vale project was earmarked to have been a large, major infrastructure, which the Mona Reservoir was just one aspect of it.
Oh, how long now, Mr. Williams? I mean...
Well, it has been quite a while, but the Prime Minister, in his announcement, indicated that they will be revisiting those plans to commence them. In the short term, though, the recovery that Mr. Taylor has alluded to work is already in train. The public-private partnership was signed in November, and the project is slated to kick off in July of this year to construct a 15 million gallon treatment plant, which will supply water to a number of the areas that are being referred to. Constant Spring, Kingston, St. Catherine, Old Harbour Road, to be specific. Right now, our current deficit, meaning the shortfall, is somewhere around 7-8 million on a daily basis. With 15 million gallons being available from that content water treatment facility, we expect that Kingston, St. Catherine will be more resilient. The suggestion on a whole is still one that we can look at, but as he said, it's going to take major investment. And so we're looking at the short term, what needs to be done, despite the fact that what we are in now, Sir Toussaint, is not a dry spell. It's a drought, which means it's beyond the normal 40% decline in average rainfall.
It's serious, really serious.
Yeah, man. It's extremely serious. And the difference is typically November, December, January, our reservoirs are filled. Typically, Portland is one of our wettest parishes. Those are not the realities. At January, our Constant Spring system was already down by 25%. That is the extent to which we are grappling. And had we not had the non-revenue water reduction program, in which we have been able to save over 30% of water that is normally lost due to theft and leaks, we would have been struggling way longer than we are now. So we are not in a great place, but we are doing better than previous years.
Mr. Taylor, there's a view out there in the public, I believe, that Jamaica's real problem is not the collection of potable water, but it's the distribution. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that's a partial problem, but if we had collected the water, as Mr. Williams had said, we wouldn't be having shortfall. But the distribution, as he mentioned, he's trying to mitigate against it because we have an old infrastructure. They put in new pipes. I remember the one on the ferry road there. But I would say that is part of the problem. But if we don't, because we get plenty rain up to yesterday, I was wet. But we need to collect it and store it. And as I said, a lot of times the rain don't always fall in the catchment area. Yeah. But my idea behind that huge dam is that it would collect so much water that we'd have like maybe a 200-acre pond, that would have water for a long time, even when the drought comes to be full of water. But No, I think it's part of the problem, but I think they've been working and mitigating those losses along the mains, and the Water Commission, Mr. Williams, can probably tell you better than I can, but you just said they saved 30%, so I think that's a good recommendation for them right now, but, you know.
Yeah, Mr. Williams wants to come in.
Absolutely. So he's on point. The 5-year program we did in Kingston has yielded, as I said, 38% in savings from water normally lost through leaking pipes, and even places where we had illegal connections. We've spent 20 months so far in Portmore. We've already seen a savings of 10% in water loss. And this doesn't seem a lot, but it's a significant amount of water. It's close to 1 million, 1.5 million in terms of gallons per day. Secondly, our energy saving, which is another cost, which when we save that money, we can plow it back into new pipes. We've saved 30% on energy cost already, just by replacing pipes, managing the pressures in places where they were too high, and we were having breaks on our network. And the program, as per the minister's announcement, which is going to be funded by an increased budget of 7 billion up from 4 billion, we expect that the program is going to be spread across a number of other parishes over the next 10 to 15 years. So we are on point. We might be a little late, Sir Toussaint and listeners. We understand the challenges, but while it's a race against time, we are responding to the needs, not just of Kingston, but the entire island.
Yeah, to be honest, Mr. Williams, I think people are wondering why every year I would talk about this.
Yeah.
We are kicking the can down the road, or in this case, kicking the dam down the road.
Well, you see, that's it. So the dam takes extensive work. Mr. Taylor, in his explanation, showed you the kind of projects that we need to consider. But in between that, you still have to manage the immediate ones. We were in La Nina conditions over the last few years, which means we really never had drought. During COVID, water, even in places that normally had part-time supply, everybody got water full time. Now, with the drought, there is nothing we can do except to try our best to manage what is far less than ideal inflows to our supply system.
Mr. Taylor, I gather that years ago you're involved in a JNIDB water harvesting project.
Yes. Well, I think IDB with JN did this, and it is a good program, and I think it's still going on. That was basically adapting water saving measures in our residential and commercial buildings, and using that, even though, as Mr. Williams said, when we're in a drought area, because its main thing was water harvesting and water saving. So that would help to mitigate the position we find ourselves now, and if we do it, it probably will take us through the drought cycles every time. So that's one thing. I think the government is onto it, and I think some municipal corporations are also putting it in where every time you have a new building plan that's approved, it should have a tank, a storage tank.
So that's one done now? That's on the tables now, Mr.
Yes, I think it's the municipal corporation. Yes, I think the municipal corporations are buying into that. One of the problems we have with that, though, is that our energy costs are expensive, and most times, unless you have the dam, the tank higher than the house, you have to pump the water.
Mm-hmm.
So when I come to you and say put a tank and you put it under your house or outside, you have to then spend high power costs to get the water to you. But it's still something we have to do, and I think right now not we in this country, but solar pumps are being developed, and we know we can use those. But water harvesting is a real solution. Short term, as Mr. Williams was saying, that we do right now. We should be able to do things like that to help us.
Okay. All right. thank you so very much, gentlemen, for joining us. We are totally out of time. And, it's bad. I mean, the drought, I'm hearing the distress and the concerns. Let's pray for rain, no? And do some rain dance.
Well, I think that's a good suggestion.
All right, gentlemen, have a productive day.
Thank you, sir. Have a great one.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-95967. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Delano Toussaint, giving a shout out to the moderator and members of the Red Hills Circuit of Baptist Churches. As I hand you back to Love in the Morning with Jakal Dyer.